live.
Good evening and welcome to General Council for April 28th, 2026. Let's go to the agenda. Number one, let's go to the attendance roll call.
Skenoswoke Quakey. It's Amos Key Jr. Onondaga.
Carrie Bomberry. Dale Bomberry.
Dean Hill.
Here, Greg Fraser.
Melba Thomas.
Cynthia Jameson.
And online, go ahead. You're on mute.
Elena Benevery.
Helen Miller.
And also, Councillor Audrey Paulus Bomberry is on bereavement. Okay, let's go to number two, community acknowledgements. Let's take a moment to reflect, to remember those community members that we have recently lost. Let's take a moment. Thank you. Let's go to number two. Number two is the Lawrence Scholarship recipient, Madison Davey, from Assumption College School. Madison Davey is one of 36 recipients of the Lawrence Scholarship, a prestigious undergraduate award that provides up to $100,000 over 4 years to pursue university. She was chosen from more than 5,400 applicants nationwide. This accomplishment reflects her outstanding strength of character, deep commitment to service, and remarkable leadership potential. We proudly recognize her for this extraordinary success and wish her well in university. So I have a plaque for you. And again, congratulations, Madison. Yes. I hope more of our youth will pursue scholarships to attend college or university like that. Yeah. Okay, let's go to number three, adoption of the agenda. Oh, we got to do number three. Go ahead, Greg. Sorry.
Just before we do the adoption of the agenda, thank you, Chief. As you know, a delegation from the Maori nations of Australia and New Zealand have come to visit our nation today. I know Councillor Dale Bomberry and yourself were able to greet them earlier today. I was fortunate enough to attend the economic development portion of their meeting. It was very fruitful. A lot of discussion was had in between both nations. And on behalf, they've asked me on behalf of their nation that they present you, Chief, with a couple of gifts that they brought. One of the gifts, Chief, it is actually a weapon of war, but what it is it notches out all of the generations that have passed thus far. And these generations also signify all of the generations that have lost their land. So similar to us, they have gone through the same situation as us. So, and also they have an artisan who has presented a natural product, a weaving gift in a frame. It's there to bring us good luck. So I'd like to, on behalf of the Maori, present you, Chief, with these two gifts.
Yes, thank you for that. Yes, we did meet them this morning. It was great to see. I think there was 10 of them, and it was great dialogue. And again, thank you for those beautiful gifts. Okay, let's go to number 3, adoption of the agenda. Is there a mover? Oh, you have addition? Yep. One addition is Amos Kawanio. With that addition, is there a mover? Moved by Melba, seconder. Second by Amos. All in favor? Anybody opposed? See none. Carried. Let's go to number 4, adoption of the general council minutes for April 14th. Is there a mover? Moved by Dale, seconder. Second by Greg. Go ahead, Dale, comment.
Deb, I was just following up, I guess, in regards to when we do our presentations. I was just wondering about that form. I know they had talked about a form being developed, and they were gonna pass it to us for review or something, so I don't know, just wondering where that is in the stage, I guess, for the departmental updates when they come to committees.
So it's actually going to be presented tomorrow. Is it tomorrow or Thursday, sorry, at our senior management meeting. So it'll be presented and put into use then.
Okay, so it's been moved and seconded. All in favor? Anybody opposed? See none. Carried. No problem. Let's go to number 5. Delegations and presentations. Molly Churchill, associate from JFK Law, to update on Six Nations of the Grand River water litigation. Come on out. Good evening and welcome.
Thank you very much,
Yep.
Now for the opportunity to be here and to provide this update. We have a short slide deck that we prepared to support the update. So thank you, Natasha, for helping go through this. And the purpose of this update is to provide an update on Six Nation of the Grand River's drinking water litigation at the Superior Court of Justice. Okay. So this claim is, if I were to sum it up in one sentence, I'd describe it as being about water security on your reserve, drinking water security. In a bit more detail, it's about Canada's failure to ensure a reliable and adequate supply of safe drinking water on this reserve, and its failure to ensure adequate wastewater treatment on the reserve. And this is all in the context, it's about Canada's exertion of colonial control, rendering Six Nations of the Grand River vulnerable and dependent on Canada for basics such as clean drinking water. We know that that's not a natural state, and that's the state of long history of colonial control by Canada. And the claim has to do both with the centralized water treatment system, as well as wells and cisterns and other homes that are not connected to the centralized system. So the claim targets both of those. And next slide, please. A little bit of legal talk. The frame itself, the claim itself is framed based on a few causes of action. So one of them is various duties that we claim flow from the honor of the Crown. We've also made claims relating to the Charter of Rights and Freedoms. So Section 15 is about equality rights, and we're saying that right now, Six Nations of the Grand River's equality rights are not being respected, are being unjustifiably breached by Canada's conduct, as well as a Section 7 rights not to be deprived of life, liberty, and security of the person. So that's honor of the Crown, the Charter, and then we've also made a claim in negligence, which is a claim basically saying that the relationship between Canada and Six Nations of the Grand River is such that Canada owes a duty of care to take reasonable steps to avoid causing harm. And we're saying that Canada has not done that, and that as a result, harm has been experienced. And we've also included Section 36 of the Constitution Act. It's a fairly novel claim to be claiming this, and this is a section of the Constitution that speaks to commitment to providing essential public services of reasonable quality to all Canadians, and that's in the context of regionalization across the country. Yeah, thanks. And so Canada has filed its statement of defense, and, you know, as to be expected, sort of denies almost everything in the claim. And if we were to distill Canada's position into a few points, that's what's reflected here on this slide. And so Canada, it's a position that I find personally a little bit gross, but basically says Six Nations of the Grand River has responsibility and control over water services. This is not a responsibility of Canada's, and so any issues are on you. Canada says that the support that it has provided, including through its community infrastructure funding, is adequate, that it's discharged any duties it might have. Canada also says, you know, off reserve, many homes in rural area rely on wells and cisterns, and so there's no basis to say that all homes should be connected to a centralized system. And Canada says what the situation for homes not connected to a centralized system here is equivalent to rural areas off reserve. And Canada says, you know, we have not made any sort of binding promise or guarantee about providing a certain level of water service to you, and funding decisions that are made are a policy choice and not based in any legal obligation. This is a position that Canada has long taken when it comes to on-reserve services, and in the last decade in particular, the tribunals like the Canadian Human Rights Tribunal and courts have tended not to find that a particularly compelling argument. And Canada says you can't use Honour of the Crown, you can't use Charter to require Parliament to provide more funding. And they also said you shouldn't have even brought this claim in Superior Court. You could have gone to the federal court and asked the court to review a specific funding decision. So that's Canada's position in a nutshell. If you could go to the next slide, please. Just to give a timeline of this claim. So Six Nations claim was issued in early December of 2024. Canada's statement of defense was served last September 2025, and Six Nations had a reply that was served about a month later on October 20th, 2025. So that closed, and a next slide will go through this, but that closed what we call the pleadings stage of litigation. So these are the three key documents that frame, okay, what is this claim about and what is being alleged. If we go to the next slide, please. So there are a few different phases in litigation. The one we just discussed is the pleadings phase. That has been completed. We're in what's called a discovery phase, and it's basically a phase in which both parties have obligations to exchange information with one another. This includes documentary information, so requires significant effort in preserving, searching for, collecting, reviewing, and eventually disclosing relevant and non-privileged documents to Canada. And Canada, in turn, then also has to provide its relevant documents to Six Nations of the Grand River we are still negotiating a timeline for the exchange of documents with Canada. And then in addition to exchanging documents, each party also has the opportunity to question a representative from the other party under oath as part of sort of an information gathering phase of the litigation. And this can sort of help test theories and better understand the facts in advance of actually going to trial. Next slide, please. Once that's completed, we enter a pretrial phase. And in this, there's a potential of trying to settle in advance of trial, or at the very least, limit the scope of issues that are in dispute before advancing into the trial phase. And then it's in that trial phase where both parties will be presenting their evidence, so witnesses, expert witnesses, documents, and then make their legal submissions before a judge as well. So that's really, in a nutshell, where we are with this litigation. I wanted to leave time for any questions that people might have. And so I'll open the floor to questions.
Okay, thank you for your presentation. Go ahead, Cynthia.
Thank you for your presentation, Molly. You said the provinces, that Canada's response included, I believe you said it's essentially our fault because of our choice of policy. What is that?
It was, I think that was two different points. One was Canada pointed to, said, we've been increasingly encouraging Six Nations to take control over drinking water. We've provided financial support for your own centralized system that is managed by Six Nations, and we aren't responsible, is basically what Canada was saying. I do, like I said, I find it a little bit of an offensive position. It's a position that Canada has taken in, there's currently a drinking water class action that spans just the last few years for First Nations that have had a drinking water advisory in effect for at least a year. And there was what's called a summary judgment motion. So it's a motion that's brought with a lot of evidence before getting into even the discovery or trial phase. And on this motion, the plaintiffs, so the First Nations, were asking the court to say that, yeah, Canada owes legal duties to First Nations to ensure that there is an adequate supply of safe drinking water, or to prevent that, like, must not take steps that prevent them from being able to have access. And the federal court in that decision last December said Canada does have these obligations. And a lot of that evidence went into the ways in which Canada has exerted control generally over reserves and over drinking water systems on reserves. And the court in that instance was not at all moved by Canada's argument that Canada had no obligation there. That case is under appeal at the Federal Court of Appeal, so that's one that we are keeping a very careful eye on as a result. So that was one, and then the other, the policy piece, it's a long-standing legal position that Canada takes, which is we don't actually have a legal obligation to be providing you with funding. This is a policy decision based, out of the goodness of our hearts, and it's not based in any sort of legal obligation. And again, in the last decade, there have been both at the Canadian Human Rights Tribunal and at the federal court, and even a Supreme Court decision that where courts and tribunals have just not been convinced by that position that Canada has taken. So they're definitely like the legal landscape over the last decade. It's a rapidly evolving area of law in terms of Canada's obligations when it comes to on-reserve services, but the developments over the last decade have been overall very positive.
Go ahead, Dale.
Okay. And I get some comments, I guess, in relation to this, and thanks for the presentation. I know the policy choice that they're saying is a policy choice, but that policy is theirs, not ours. It's their choice. So it's their policy, they're following it. And just some other information too, just in regards to, I guess, funding and how it comes to First Nations across Canada. I know they have a manual, whether that's their policy or not, calling a cost reference manual. And that's how they fund various First Nations all across Canada. And based on that, they have like a gross funding ratio and a net funding ratio. In their booklet, the gross funding ratio tells you what it should cost. Let's take, for example, this building here. And I'll just use this as a number. Let's say it costs $10 a square foot to operate and maintain this building. So that's their gross funding ratio. So they tell you how much it's going to cost, but then what they actually fund you is the NFR, which is the net funding ratio. And depending on the classification code that they have on that asset, some of them can be $0. Some can be, let's say, $2 on the $10, so 20%. Different ones are like 40%, 50%, 60%, 80%. So it's all depending on the code. So they never give you the full funding for what their policy says because they have a GFR and an NFR, and they go by the NFR. The only one that they do provide 100% funding for would be the federal schools. They say that, but every 3 or 4 years we have to fight to catch up because they always get into almost $1 million, if not more, in deficit. And it's usually after 3 or 4 years. So I know it's a policy choice, but it's their policy. And if that reference manual is the policy that they're using, then that's probably 60 years old, if not older. And it hasn't changed since then. So it's not only Six Nations that suffers based on that policy they say that they claim to use. It's all the First Nations across Canada because they just don't provide the proper funding for what is required to operate. So I mean, it's weak reply in my thing just because of reality and facts.
Go ahead, Deb.
Molly, I just wanted to read to you the Indigenous Services Canada website, which does not align at all with what their response is. It states Indigenous Services Canada works collaboratively with partners to improve access to high quality services for First Nations, Inuit, and Métis. Our vision is to support and empower Indigenous peoples to independently deliver services and address the socioeconomic conditions in their communities. They also have a section on water in First Nations communities. And what that states is achieving clean drinking water, ending long-term drinking water advisories, new short-term water advisories, improving water and wastewater systems on reserve, and training programs. So this is on their website. I'm not understanding the correlation between what they state their mandate is versus their response to this.
Now for that, and Councillor Dale Bomber as well. As I understand Canada's argument, they're in part saying that is a policy of ours. It's not legislation. It's not legally binding. That's how I understand, like if I were to distill it down, that's how I would understand some of what they've written in their statement of defense. To Councillor Bomberry's point, like this is their policy, that there are many points, you know, that sort of flow from that and feed into that. One being if you're taking active steps you have to make sure that the actions that you're taking are, if we're looking just at the charter, for example, compliant with the charter. So if you have, even if, let's say, it's just a policy choice, and even say there aren't duties, legal duties that flow from the honor of the crown, like let's just put a pin in that and say even without that, when in making a policy decision to be involved in this area, it doesn't mean Canada can then just do whatever it wants. There are certain legal requirements that attach to that. And yeah, I think it's frustrating to hear, well, sure, that's our policy, but we don't really mean it, almost, in a sense, by saying you can't legally hold us to that. But again, like I said, they're rapidly evolving legal landscape, but the developments of late have been quite positive when it comes to finding that Canada does owe legal obligations when it comes to on-reserve services, specifically regarding water, but also in areas such as housing, child and family services, and policing. So I think we have there's a lot of precedent that is helpful in encountering some of the statements that Canada has made in its defense.
Go ahead, Leslie.
Hi, Molly, and thank you for that presentation. I just want to, I suppose it's a reiteration of the various problematic situations that have occurred here at Six Nations, and where the government is now choosing to say, you don't qualify for the basic human rights of good water. That's the number one thing that they're stating. The other thing is, it is a Canadian human right issue here. Because if you want to look at it historically, they didn't do anything to mitigate the fracking of our land around us with the mining that took place. I have a military installation on two sides of our reserve, being Birch and being just on the other side of Hagersville in that area. What then was contaminated there? Also, I look at the toxic waste now that's being brought here, dumped here, and they're not moving fast enough to assist in that in mitigating that risk of the toxic contamination to our lands even now. So for them to sit back and say, we've done our best, that's not your best. And then we look at our Grand River, filthy, dirty river. And what have they done on the water that's flowing towards us? What have they done to stop sewage going in there, chemicals and various things, so that at least if when we start here, that we would start with clean water. But no, we had to get a cleaning system at that point as well. So when they say they have no obligations, there's obligations. I might not carry the same blood as somebody else, but I am a human being. And that is, and so is our community. And then I look at where we're situated. Prime location. We sit between two borders, which is Detroit and Buffalo, Niagara Falls and Buffalo. We have railway through here. We have highways through here. How much of that, whatever they have charged people to use or whatever, ever came back to Six Nations? It didn't. Presently, it's not either. Hydro lines connecting all around us this way and that way. So when I look at this and I hear what Canada's position is, there's a big argument here. You can go historically, you can go to present date, and it's all the same. So then, while Canada can boast, oh, we have subways, oh, we have good water here in Toronto, Hamilton, London, Brantford, but we can go to Caledonia as close as 10-minute drive from here, adjacent to Six Nations. Hagersville, good drinking water. So I just want to present that and state that, like, that is very lame what I heard from Canada. Thank you.
Now, yeah, I know legal pleadings can be upsetting documents to read. because what Canada presents as its truth in the documents is going to be far different from what is actually experienced by people here. So now for those comments.
Any other comments or questions for that? Oh, I don't see any. So again, thank you for the update. And as you can see, there was a lot of excuses that the government is dishing out as usual. So,
Okay.
and I'm glad that you came in for the community to hear the update. Yep, go ahead, Cynthia.
Thanks again, Molly. Is there any projected timeline for the conclusion of this?
It's hard to say exactly. I'd say at this point, we're looking at, like, we're hoping by 2029 for a trial by then. And a lot of that will depend on how quickly we can get through this discovery phase, so the exchange of documents. And that's what we're still working with Canada to try to come to agreement on that timeline. So once we have a better sense of that timeline, we should have a better sense of when that could proceed to trial. And the discovery phase is often, it's helpful to parties to start to get a better sense of the strength of a case, strength of defense, and so can sometimes lead to an appetite for settlement discussions. I can't say at this point if that's what is going to happen here, but the discovery phase, because it means we're looking not just at everything that Six Nations has, but also getting a look at the documents that Canada has as well. Okay, Nyawa, for the opportunity.
Yes. Thank you again. Oh, Helen. Go ahead, Helen.
Didn't Canada accept responsibility for water on reserves when they settled the original settlement? Isn't that the same as accepting responsibility for water on reserve?
It
When they did
it would
the water
be
settlement.
right. So this was the class action that was settled in 2021, I want to say, something like that. And it couldn't be used to proof that Canada has that obligation. It shows that at the time, the decision makers within the government of Canada thought that it would be more fruitful to negotiate the issue rather than litigate it. But we seem to have seen a sort of change in approach by the government of Canada, because that class action that was settled, it covered up until a certain date, and it was for First Nations who had drinking water advisories in effect for at least the span of 1 year, and it covered up until, I think it was a specific date in 2021. And there's a new class action that is covering the same issues, but from that date to the present. And Canada, this is the one where there was recently a summary judgment motion. So Canada didn't start negotiating right away on that and said, no, we're going to go to court and test some of this. And that's the case. It was a very positive outcome in December at the federal court, and is currently being appealed to the Federal Court of Appeal.
All right. Thanks again, Molly. Can I have a mover to accept his information? Moved by Cynthia, second by Leslie. All in favor? Anybody opposed? See none, carried. Let's go to number 2. I have Audie Bush from the First Nations Child and Family Services and Jordan's Principal Settlement claims helper. So this is a follow-up from when you guys came in December. Yeah. So if you can introduce yourselves and welcome. Yeah. Oh, can you just push the button? Yep. There you go.
Good evening. My name is Holly Johnston. I'm the Ontario South Liaison with Deloitte for the First Nations Child and Family Services and Jordan's Principal Settlement. I'm here with Audi to provide the information that you have requested. I'd also like to give you some information, a little bit of an update on the settlement. We currently have, at this time, Ontario has 18,662 applications for the settlement compensation. I don't have the number for overall, but that's where we're at in terms of Ontario. I also want to let you know that we have service coordination with Ontario or with the settlement, and that's to provide support to anyone that's applied for the settlement and requires any kind of support. I am also serving a dual role as the liaison and as the service coordinator manager with the settlement. We currently have one service coordinator working in Northern Ontario, and we're going to be looking for another service coordinator specifically for Southern Ontario. I'm going to be sending out potentially a job posting soon. We've asked other agencies to come forward and see if they wanted to take it on, so we're waiting on that. So I will be distributing that job posting hopefully very soon. I'm sitting here with Audi to provide the information that you requested, so I'll give the floor to Audi to provide that information.
Hello, my name is Audie Bush and I'm the claims helper for Six Nations. So since December, we've done 3 sessions. The first session being on February 6th, it was hosted here in the council chambers and we had 3 participants. The second session being on March 20th, that was done at Gray in the theater room and we had 0 participants. And the third session being on March 27th, also done at Gray in the theater room and we had 5 participants. We also had 2 other sessions, but they were canceled due to weather. And we're currently planning for sessions in May. So every Thursday, we are going to be having sessions from 6 to 8, which will be one-on-one appointments where people can book it with Lori Martin, and we'll be hosting it here. And yeah, that's just like a brief overview of what we've done so far.
Okay. Is there any questions? Go ahead, Dale, then Leslie.
So is there a online application that people can access to go online and just to talk to that? Like, I don't know if they just got no travel to get in, or they don't want to come in and talk about it just because of the personal issues, I guess. But I was wondering if there's a mechanism for them to go online, because I mean, we're broadcasting, so people are listening. So I don't know if there's a different mechanism. If you're saying you had these 3 sessions and you only had 8 people in total show up, so I don't know if there's a different mechanism, I guess, to reach out and contact people.
There is another mechanism. Oh, yeah. There is another mechanism, and it's on the webpage on fnchildclaims.ca. There's an online portal on the top right that somebody can click on if they want to complete their application themselves. Audi provides support to people who want to get help completing their application, but if somebody wanted to do it themselves, they certainly can. They can also call the 1-800 number to access Audi if she's not available at that time, so they can set up another time to meet with her. Or if they're not in the area, anywhere in Canada, wherever you're living, you can access a claims helper anywhere. If you call the 1-800 toll-free number, they can direct you to a claims helper in your region, so anywhere in Canada.
You have that number? The 1-800 number? So the community will know.
Do you have it? I don't have it with me, do you?
Go ahead.
Hi, sorry, Alyssa from Deloitte as well. The number is 1-833-852-0755.
Thank you. Go ahead, Leslie.
So this question is for Audie. Audie, yeah, you met with, was it you personally that met with the 8 participants? Okay, so did they have long-standing issues? How long was their wait for any application or these new participants?
Could you repeat that?
Of the 8 that you met,
Mm-hmm.
were they new participants? Was there anything that could be resolved efficiently, timely for them?
Yes. So, out of the 8, most of them were just gathering information. So, they dropped by and they took the claim form, and then they said either they were going to do it by themselves or they were going to come back to a session.
Okay, go ahead, Helen.
Sir, I'm wondering if, surprised at the low number for Six Nations. And I'm wondering if people don't really understand what's going on. There hasn't been a lot of education on this. I mean, it's in the paper, things like that, but there hasn't really been a lot of education on this like there was with the Indian day schools. So I'm just wondering if people don't understand it. My other question is there a lot of documentation that has to accompany these claims? Like evidence, proof, different things like that? Because that might be hard for people to get as well. I never went through the claim, so I don't know what people are required to produce. I'm just wondering if it's hard for people to get the information, or I'm just really surprised at the low number, given our population.
So in terms of education, we can have more community meetings to talk about the settlement, to let people know what the settlement is about. I can certainly come down here with Audi and do a presentation to the community at your request, whenever works best for you. As many people that want to show up. Audi also does information sessions for at least 20 people, so those can be done on a regular basis as well, if that's something the community would like.
I guess just before I go to, I have Amos, Dale, Elena, then Cynthia. I guess my question is, how are you reaching the homeless who are on the streets, but also the people who are incarcerated to know about this?
So we have claims helpers that work specifically with people who are incarcerated. So they do have a toll-free number that they can call from where they are, and they can access a claims helper who specifically works with people who are incarcerated. We also have people across Canada who are working in the urban centers for people who are homeless as well. So they connect with the homeless shelters, soup kitchens, any kind of social program within the urban centers that offer services to the homeless people. Did you want to add anything?
And I guess just one more question. I guess the other part of it also is ID. A lot of the ones that a lot of our members don't have ID. So is it okay, just verification from our membership, a letter? Is that okay?
So they do require a valid government issued ID. Audi can help people access that. We also have service coordinators who can also help people access getting their identification wherever they are. If they're in the community or living anywhere in Canada, we have the claims helpers who can help them with that.
Okay, go ahead, Amos.
Yeah, I'm hoping that, good evening. I'm hoping that people listening, that's why we have the microphones, if you could just share with them, what is the eligibility? What can they apply for to recover, or can you just give us an elevator ride about what that can look like?
So in terms of what's open right now, we have eligibility for any child who is removed from the First Nation and placed off reserve. We also have eligibility for the parents or caregivers. It could be the grandparent, could be a parent of the child who was removed, and they were the caregiver of the child when the child was first removed from the First Nation and placed off reserve by a child welfare authority. So it could be an Indigenous child welfare or it could be Children's Aid.
Follow up is, so is it for
Follow up.
is it for damages or what is it for?
No, it's compensation for the lack of services, the any unequal services across Canada. So there was lack of services in child welfare in the First Nations across Canada. So there was no access to programs, no access to mental health, addictions, any kind of support programs that the family might have needed, which resulted in the removal of that child.
Go ahead, Alyssa.
Can you hear me? Okay. Yeah, and just to add to that, it's the settlement is also tied specifically for these two classes to the First Nations Child and Family Services program. So that program also had dates, start and end dates, that policies were in place. And so when Holly said earlier that it's for children that were removed from on reserve and placed off reserve, it would have had to have been between April 1st, 1991 and March 31st, 2022. So that's kind of an important piece during that time period if they were removed, and also the care or placement would have had to have been funded by ISK. And so Canada would have had to have paid for the child's removal or placement. Just wanted to add a little bit of additional context.
Go ahead, Dale.
Yeah, no, some of the other questions were what I was looking at, just in regards to information eligibility, but I was wondering if like there could be documents or paper left various places. I know we have a lot of offices here, we have community organizations that, where people can, pick up material, because everybody doesn't have a computer or an iPad to do all the online, or may not even have the internet. So, but have just different mechanism to reach out to individuals, not only for them to have the information, but also a mechanism for them, for you guys to advertise where you're gonna be and when and what time, just so people can have that available. I mean, I know some of the bank over here has a bulletin board, stick something on a bulletin board, so there's different mechanisms to try and get to different people that may not have all the technology that some people have. And my only other question, out of those 18,000, would you say 18,262 claims?
600.
Like, are those from Ontario, so it's all the First Nations in Ontario? Is there any of those resolved? Like, what percentage is being resolved, or,
In terms of receiving their compensation?
yeah, settled or whatever, cleared or whatever?
We have 18,662 applications. As for how many are eligible right now, we don't have that number. And that number is going to fluctuate as time goes on, so it's going to increase dramatically.
Go ahead, Elena.
Thank you. Maggie, I appreciate you for stepping in with that claims period. That was one of the questions. Um, I have the unique ability tonight to monitor the comments coming in online on the live feed. So a couple of suggestions from community, to Dale's point, were to send out a mail out flyer with the information and upcoming meeting dates. Um, the claims period was spoken about. Another question was um, for children taken from homes, you said, and placed off reserve. Does that include if they were sent to the US?
So if they were taken from the First Nation and placed off reserve, they're eligible. If they were taken from the US, they would not be eligible. They'd have to be placed in Canada because they would.
Not taken from the US, placed in the US.
Alyssa, can you respond?
Yes, they would be eligible as long as they were taken off reserve anywhere that they were placed. My understanding is that as long as ISK paid for the placement, they would be eligible. So that's kind of one thing it hinges on, is that Canada would have had to have paid for wherever they were placed.
Okay, thank you. And just have claims been, just to Dale's point, have claims been successfully paid out yet? Any claims at all?
Oh, sorry. I can take that one. Yes, claims have been paid out. I believe it's more than $4 million so far. I think this number might be about a month or two old, and every month there's a new batch of claimants that gets paid out.
Thank you.
Go ahead, Cynthia.
Just a couple of questions. For these applicants, these 862 applicants, are you tracking so we would know like how many were from Six Nations members?
Hi, Alyssa again. I can take this one. Yes, there is tracking based on postal codes of where claims are being submitted from. It is a little trickier for us to figure out which specific nation people can be tied to because, as you could imagine, people live elsewhere other than their reserve. So right now, the data points we have indicate where someone is residing and where they've applied from and where they've listed their contact information to receive further communications. We don't have an exact number tied to Six Nations, unfortunately.
But you are working on it, right?
Yes, yeah. There's a lot of communities, unfortunately, in Ontario and throughout all the provinces, so it's probably going to take some time for a more detailed breakdown.
Follow up?
Two more.
Yep.
Just to tag on to the comments made about educating and notices to our membership so they're aware, I'd like to point out our bread and cheese is going to be May 25th at the community hall. And what we find often are groups, would you say?
May 18th
Oh, May 18th, excuse
is
me.
bread and cheese.
Here, I always thought it was a May 2.
Don't show up on the 25th.
Yeah. You will have no problem finding a spot to set up your tent. But everybody and their uncle attends that. And what we find are various organizations or groups that are trying to do surveys, collect information, do set up over there. But I do have a question for Elsa. You said, if I understood properly, that the child, having been moved off the reserve, the catch was it had to be funded by ISK. Now, I wonder if you can clarify that. And what I'm thinking of is in the context, Ontario is an anomaly as far as funding for child welfare. Everybody would be aware of that based on that CHRT business. But we have what's called a 65 welfare agreement. So the monies are upfronted for child welfare, child and family by the province. At the end of the year, the feds reimburse the provincial treasury.
Yeah.
So in fact, is that, I would
Yeah.
have to think that's all included, right?
Yeah, in fact, we did get a response back on this specific question quite recently, and the answer was that yes, definitely, because it was funded by the federal government, in the end, it actually is quite a direct tie to this program. Yeah.
Go ahead, Melba.
Yes, concerning eligibility. As we know, the day schools had an eligibility. It don't matter if you're in school one day or your entire school, elementary here, for example. We know there's numerous moves in child welfare, placements, various places. So one of the questions is, would you apply every time you're in a placement? For example, if you were placed with relatives and then placed with foster care, somebody placed with group home, and also I don't hear anything about adoption. So can you apply numerous times? And are all these people eligible when they're placed in a group home, foster home, relatives, etc.?
So according to the settlement guidelines, the people that are eligible are children that were removed during the time frame and the date of the first removal. So they're looking at the first date that they were removed, that the child was removed. So if they were removed and placed in a group home and then went to a different home, they're looking at the first date that they went into care.
Follow up, go ahead,
The
Melba.
first date they went into care. The other, for example, they were there for a year.
Yeah.
So, and then there was a breakdown in the family structure again,
Yeah.
and they're placed with someone else.
Yeah.
There's no eligibility there for
The
compensation?
eligibility is specifically to the first placement, the date of the first placement. So they're not going to get multiple eligibilities for the length of time that they were in care or the number of placements. It's about the lack of services and resources in First Nations that were not available when the child was removed.
Okay, Amos?
Yeah, I'm still trying to wrap my mind around it. Thank you again for giving us all this information at the beginning here. So are we looking for negligence in this process when someone comes to talk to you? And that's my first question. The other question is, I was a teaching professor at the University of Toronto. We went through the whole TRC agreement and the harms formula. You probably all know about that, how ridiculous that was. So is there a cap on what someone can apply for, like they did in the TRC, the Common Experience Program and Independent Assessment Program process, I mean? Because if you went for the independent assessment process, it was like going to court.
Yeah.
Is that what we're looking at this level or not?
No.
Okay. And the question about negligence, are we looking at negligence by way of services?
If I understand your question correctly, the negligence, you're referring to kind of harm factors. For this settlement, they're not assessing harm factors at all. It's actually just a base compensation based on being removed, period. Like if you were removed from your home on reserve, placed off reserve into care funded by ISK between April 1st, 1991, March 31st, 2022, just the fact that you were removed gives you a base compensation payment. And that's kind of the whole two classes that we're talking about today are just predicated on being removed and not harms grid, not what occurred to you when you were in care. It was kind of the fact that you were removed is what is getting compensated, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I guess what I'm getting at, because I know what happened with the Truth and Reconciliation, they got a base foundation formula, right? It was 10,000, I think, or 3,000 if you could claim you were in residential school. And then for each year, you got another 3,000, I think it was, up to a max of $250,000 settlement. If you could, because it had that harms formula, included punishment, corporal punishment, sexual abuse, types of intercourse, even was declared. And that's where my students went livid. They couldn't believe they were being asked this question, the types of intercourse that our people had to suffer through. That's what I'm asking about the negligence. Is it to that level or not?
No, yeah, and I think that's one thing that I guess, positive and negative about this settlement is that also going back to Helen's question that I don't think we answered about what is required to apply for this settlement, you don't need to really provide a lot actually compared to other settlements. You don't need to provide evidence of certain types of abuses. You don't need to relive, all the different details of trauma and what have you. It's very basic based on a date of removal. And also you know, whether you were a minor at that time and if you were the caregiver of the child that was removed at that time.
Follow up?
Yeah, so what's the baseline? If I was going to apply, I was taken away in 1991 or what I think it is. What can I be entitled to?
Oh, go ahead, Holly. Oh.
Is it multiplied by years after that or not?
No.
No, yeah, there's not really there's not a formula multiplier for these two classes or under this settlement. It's a base compensation payment of $40,000 just for being removed. So each child that was removed during that time period, you're entitled to apply for $40,000 of compensation. And then caregivers, because you might have had more than one child removed during that time period, you can actually apply for each child that was removed from reserve to off reserve between the dates. And into care funded by ISK, you can apply for each of the children that applies to that were removed from your care.
Follow up?
Follow up?
So is there a factor then of 40,000 times the number of children that you lost?
Oh, well, yeah, in that sense, technically, yes, you would be eligible likely for 40,000 per child that is eligible. So it must be that the child themselves are an eligible removed child. So as long as their removal satisfies all the criteria I just noted, then you as a caregiver for each of the children that applies to can apply for 40,000.
Okay, final follow-up.
So do we have dedicated staff in a community that's following this, Deb? Like Wendani down or from Arliss's camp? To help us?
So right now they're working with Lori Martin on the engagement with the community. So that work is going through Lori. In terms of the follow-up from our community services, it's about getting the information out to clients that they know. So they're aware of that information. And just to the answer a little bit more, Amos, so there is communication that's going out tomorrow again through social media and in the papers, and it's about our upcoming May sessions. They're going to be happening May 7th, 14th, the 21st, and the 28th. And that's for the private appointment to learn about the settlement, their eligibility, how to submit a claim. So it's a learning experience on, you know, how if you're eligible to apply, and then the actual application piece. All of those sessions will be held here in the council chambers, and it's 6 to 8 p.m. at night to accommodate people's work schedules. So to register for that private appointment, you can contact Lori Martin, who's here at Central Administration, and the number's 519-445-2201. In addition, the education piece, because it's also concerning to me about the number of people that have applied to have engaged in the 3 sessions that we've had. And so I was talking to Chastity, our director of communications, about actually recording a education session that you've indicated you've done, and to also put that out on social media so that if people can't come, that we have a recording that will go out on our SNGR website where people can actually listen to that education session, to just try to get the numbers up, because we know that, you know, child apprehension has taken place in our community over the years, and we want to make sure that people that have suffered that are aware that there is this compensation piece.
Okay, go ahead. You got to.
I just want to thank you for sharing all this information with us. I didn't really know about this till tonight. Thank you very much.
Go ahead, Carrie.
So if a child is apprehended by CAS from her home and placed in a home off reserve, she'd be eligible?
Yes.
So if the same child was apprehended by CAS and placed in a home on reserve, she's not eligible?
The child would have to been placed off reserve.
So if it was on reserve, they're not eligible?
No.
Okay.
No. And they would have had to been placed by a child welfare agency, so a protection agency like Children's Aid. Unfortunately, this one is specific to children who are placed off reserve. If they were placed with another First Nation, they would be eligible because they were taken from their home community and placed elsewhere. Okay.
Go ahead, Dale, Leslie, Cynthia.
I guess for, is it Alyssa? And you talked about a tracking mechanism in relation to Cynthia's question about postal codes. You're probably gonna have to find another mechanism because for the reserve, I think there's 4 different postal codes for Six Nations. So you're gonna have to figure out something to be able to quantify your stats in relation to Six Nations. Cause the postal code isn't gonna work, cause I think there's 4 of them for residents on reserve.
Yeah, thank you very much for that comment. And we are indeed struggling to quantify for all the different reserves, including Six Nations. It's very challenging to know, I guess, which exact postal codes. And we've, I think, received over 400 unique or 500 unique postal codes from claimants in Ontario so far. So yes, it's been a challenge, and definitely would be open to chat about ideas if you have them on how to quantify that. Even if you want to give us the 4 that are attributed to Six Nations, then we can try to do something with that.
So yeah, so we can get Lori to give you, I think there's 5, but we can get that to you.
Okay.
Did you have a follow-up, Dale?
Yeah, so the other question, and just listening to everything, when you're saying they were a caregiver, so if, let's say I was the caregiver, and you took, let's say, 2 children from me and they were placed off reserve. So me as a caregiver, I can apply for that funding based on all the criteria that you have?
Yes.
So,
As long as you were not abusive towards the child.
mhm.
The people that are not eligible are people who have committed any kind of physical abuse or
Mhm.
sexual abuse against a child.
Yeah, that's kind of where I was leading to. I said, how beneficial is that?
Yeah.
If somebody is that person and they're gonna be able to get dollars now because yet you've taken the children from them.
Yeah.
So I don't know if there's more guidelines or criteria that people need to be aware of as well in relation to that.
Yeah. In terms of the physical and sexual abuse, most often there's court records that would confirm that within the child welfare record.
Go ahead, I have Leslie, Cynthia, then Helen.
Hi, and thanks. Okay, so just to clarify, they had to be living on the reserve and then sent out of the reserve, right? But so they couldn't have been living in Brantford and sent somewhere else.
They could have, they have to be an ordinary resident. So an ordinary resident, as defined by the settlement, is somebody who has lived on reserve for at least 50% of their time. So if they left to go to school, or maybe they've taken a small contract, or they're attending treatment, or maybe they're institution, but they had to have been living at least 50% of their time on reserve.
And then one more question is, that's a long time span, so I can imagine that a majority or some have deceased.
Yes.
So who is eligible to apply for them?
So the family can apply on their behalf. They will require a death certificate. They can apply as an heir on behalf of either the child or the parent. And there's a specific form that Audi would help them with to apply as well.
Go ahead, Cynthia.
Yeah, I'm trying like Amos to get a handle on this. In a nutshell, what I've gleaned, it's a period between 1991 and March 2022. And the amount, it's like a set amount per child, which is 40,000. And the caregiver is the same for each child they would have lost in this process. Now, the part, and I understand it's a compensation for lack of services, and I think the example was like mental health. Is that correct so far?
Yes.
I just wanted to take up Melba's question. I don't know if it was fully answered. Melba, you were saying, what about, if a child was taken and placed, then was back at their home and then placed again and again?
Yeah.
And the response that was the question, Melba? And I believe the response was no, it's only one time.
Yes.
That's what I don't understand.
Yeah.
I don't understand what is the rationale, because if it's a compensation for the child due to lack of services, so example here, they were here, taken by an agency, moved off the reserve, it's we failed to provide the proper inadequate services. And it wasn't us directly because the feds provide the money. That's it. But if they, and also even with carries, so if this compensation is for lack of services and you get a child moved off the reserve, in care, moved off the reserve, and they never ever come back, that's one thing. You compensated them for that one point. But if, using Melba's example, there's a breakdown, whatever, and they're back, and it just seems logical compensated for all these additional time periods where we are failing to provide. Whereas if they were off the reserve, they would have been well taken care of, is the premise. And like for carries, again, I don't see the rationale. If the child were from here and they're going to get compensated because we provide proper services, but then they're placed in another home on the reserve, they're double whammy. It doesn't, I can't understand the rationale. It just sounds unfair. I don't know what the explanation is. If somebody can explain that. I'm having trouble to understand that.
Yeah, happy to take that. Totally recognize that it is unfair for a lot of cases where, harm was felt for multiple removals. Unfortunately, it just wasn't part of what was agreed to in the settlement. So we're not really sure why that wasn't negotiated the way that I guess you guys might have wanted it to be. But I think this was the best that could be negotiated at the time that this settlement was settled. But mind you, we're not, none of us here today were party to that settlement or to the negotiation. So we're not able to really comment on why it was decided that way. We're just basically administering based on what was agreed to in the settlement.
Follow up?
Yeah, who did this agreeing and negotiating? Because again, I'm not no technical person. I'm not a child welfare expert, nor are my colleagues. But the questions they raise, it's hard to comprehend that whoever was doing his wheeling and dealing didn't occur to them. It's just so glaring. Who's responsible for all this? Do we got to sue them next?
Oh gosh, well, I don't know. I want to necessarily comment on the exact names. We do have a list of the plaintiffs on the settlement website, but that's all to say that they might have actually brought these points up, right? But their lawyers, them and their lawyers are fighting against Canada. Also listed on the website. I don't know those by heart, but basically they would have had a back and forth over some of these issues probably, I think, for a couple of years the negotiations went on. And so the settlement is $23.4 billion across Canada, and I think that is the best that they could have agreed upon at the time. But you do have a list of the plaintiffs and the legal counsels that are on the settlement website if you'd like to check those out.
Okay, go ahead, Helen, and then we'll wrap it up.
Yeah, I just wanted to comment that I'm sitting here, I'm looking at the low numbers that have so far approached to do an application. I think maybe it might be because, if you remember, we had the Native Services branch as part of Brantford's CAS on reserve. in the 90s and some of the 2000s. So I'm thinking maybe we have a low number because the Native Services branch tried their hardest to place children on the reserve. There wasn't too many children going off the reserve back then. So I think that might be why we have such low numbers, maybe, because that's a lot of money. So I thought maybe I'm just surprised at the low numbers. So I'm thinking that might be why. We're probably one of the only reserves in Canada that had a Native Services branch on reserve at that time or ever. And they really worked hard to place them on reserve, so not too many children who were going into care over those years that they're covered. 91 to I think Native Services branch left here in about 4, 5, 6, maybe in the early 2000s, late 2000s. So that's probably why we're not going to have a whole lot of high numbers because of that, I would think. Most of our children back then were being placed on reserve, which was a good thing. But they still didn't get the service. Six Nations still didn't have the good services and everything that they should have had because it was because of the funding. So they should have left it for on reserve as well, not just off reserve. We didn't have the services on reserve either. Didn't have them off and we didn't have them on. So I question, like Cynthia, I don't know who was doing the negotiating, but I think they kind of left some things out that they shouldn't have. Anyways, those are my comments.
Okay. Thank you to all of you for coming in and sharing, giving us the update, and also answering the questions.
Thank you for inviting us.
Thank you.
Have a good evening.
Yep. Can I have a mover to accept his information? Moved by Leslie, second by Amos. All in favor? Anybody opposed? See none. Carried. Let's go to number 3. Isaac Watson, owner of Ike's Asphalt. He's online. Good evening.
Hi, how are you?
Good, thank you.
I have had the license to solicit, I guess technically they call it, for a few years. So I guess I'm doing this again, but I don't technically solicit. I just hand out flyers while I'm working there. I have maybe 7, 8 jobs to do again this season on the res. So I was just wanting to renew my license, and I guess this is a formality I got to go through again. So I was just asking for permission.
Okay, thank you for that. So the recommendation is the Six Nations of the Grand River 59th Elected Council grant permission to Isaac Watson to solicit his business, Ike's Asphalt Inc., on Six Nations of the Grand River territory between April 1st, 2026 and ending December 5th, 2026. Whereas Isaac Watson has made an application for permission to solicit his business, which is referred to as Ike's Asphalt, on Six Nations of the Grand River. And whereas Mr. Watson application is complete with the required police record check and applicable fee of $50 has been paid, and therefore it be resolved that the Six Nations of the Grand River 59th Elected Council grant permission to Isaac Watson, owner of Ike's Asphalt, to solicit on Six Nations of the Grand River beginning on April 1st, 2026 and ending December 5th, 2026, and that Mr. Watson abide by the Six Nations of the Grand River solicitation policy approved by Six Nations of the Grand River Elected Council on February 7th, 2024. Is there a mover? Are you moving it, or question? Is there a mover? Moved by Carrie with a question. Is there a seconder? Then I can go to question. Second by Cynthia. Go ahead, Carrie, because you moved it, and then Melba.
Um, Isaac,
Yes,
you do, what are you doing, laneways or parking lots?
I've done both. I've done even the Veterans Hall and the the hospital on Mississauga. I've done a bunch of work for you for you guys, and I've got about 8 laneways to do, house driveways and laneways. Yes.
Okay, thanks.
Go ahead, Melba.
Yes, if Ike's asphalt has other people working for him, have they too had a police check?
You're on mute. We're just trying to get you off mute.
Mute it? Oh,
Yep, now I
sorry.
can hear you.
Sorry. Are you asking if my employees has had background checks?
Yes.
They when I hired them, but I've had them 5 or 6 years. I've never had any issues with any of my employees having any issues. But if you want me to get them background checked, I can. But they do not solicit or do anything but drive a dump truck in and out of the reservation.
Melba?
Yes, I think that would be necessary. They do nothing but drive, but they do have, I'm sure, connections at times with people who they are doing business for. And I think it should be required that all the employees have a police check so we can look at possibly no harm to our people. Thanks.
Okay, so it's been moved and seconded. All in favor? Anybody opposed? Seen and carried. Waive second reading. Moved by Carrie. Second by Cynthia. All in favor? Anybody opposed? See none. Carried. Okay, thank you for joining us tonight, and somebody will.
Sherilyn, there's some kind of crazy noise going on. There's some
Um,
kind of crazy noise going on. It sounds like water running or something.
I think that's
You guys are talking.
Isaac's.
Oh, it's just I'm standing against the little lake at the back of my yard.
Yeah.
Oh, that was him.
That
Oh,
is him.
okay. I
Sorry.
thought I heard water. Good thing I got my hearing aids on. I could hear it.
You can hear
Okay.
better than me.
Okay, Isaac's. Someone will get in touch with you.
Okay. So
Okay.
you need me to get my employees' criminal records? Is this what we're going with? I guess I can't hear you no more.
Yep. Just hang on. We'll get. Okay, so it's just for the. I guess it's not part of our policy. It's just for the owner. Okay, so it's just for yourself. So
Okay.
Natasha will be reaching out to you.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you. Have a good night, guys.
Yes. Thank you.
Bye bye.
Okay, let's go to number 6. This is the chief's updates. So this is from April 10th to April 23rd. I want to remind the community again that Hydro One, in partnership with Honeywell, will be completing electricity meter replacement work within Six Nations as part of an ongoing investment in strengthening the local electricity system. Honeywell is currently scheduled to be in the community beginning of the week of April 27th to replace electricity meters for residential and commercial customers. Residential customers can expect a very brief interruption of service, typically less than 5 minutes, at the time their individual meter is replaced. For large commercial customers in Six Nations, no outages will occur during replacement work. April 10th, I attended the FIFA World Cup 2026 Indigenous Advisory Board. It was a virtual meeting. This advisory group will help guide the planning and legacy work as Toronto prepares to host FIFA. Also, too, I just wanted to remind the community awareness booklets are available and are being delivered by mail. If you do not receive one in the mail, there's extra copies here at the administration building. Also, too, the leisure guides have been for spring 2026, covering activities from March 1st to May 31st. Also, in the leisure guide is the political newsletter, and is a newsletter to update every quarter for myself, but also there's a space for counselors to update what they've been doing also. So I just wanted to remind the community that these are out there for you to receive. Okay, is there a motion for my update? Moved by Melba, second by Greg. All in favor? Anybody opposed? See none, carried. Okay, go ahead, Leslie.
At this time of the year, following, Christmas has gone by, and I know we're into March, April, May, and people are running into, some over unpaid bills for whatever reason, whatever cause. Who is the contact here at Six Nations if they need to, uh, make arrangements with? Do we still have that available here with Hydro One?
So if it's specific to hydro, you can contact Lori Martin here at Central Administration. So that's 519-445-2201. Okay?
Okay, let's go to number 7, the CEO updates.
I just wanted to add one point to the community awareness, and specifically regarding bread and cheese. So bread and cheese deliveries will be available for up to 200 on-reserve community members living outside of Ohsweken. So people that are over 55 years of age, people with disabilities, those who have not connected with any of our community services, and those with no family members who can provide transportation for the individual. So anybody interested in getting their bread and cheese delivered can call the Senior Support Hub, and that number is 519-445-4481. I'll give you that number again. It's 519-445-4481. The other update I have is that we engaged with our elected council last week for our budget days to look at our 2026, 2027 budgets. That work continues. It will continue next week. So anybody that's looking to apply for funding, we just ask you to be patient with us as we finish this work. And until we get council approval for the upcoming budget. Thank you.
Okay, can I have a mover to accept this information? Moved by Leslie, second by Melba. All in favor? Anybody opposed? See none, carried. Okay, let's go to number 8, requests for ad hoc committee. Did you want to speak on this, Dale?
Yes, thank you, Chief. I know this has been a long-standing issue here within the community in relation to Six Nations court case in regards to accountability and I guess responsibility for our trust funds and land claims, I guess. And I know as of October 2026, the litigation is going to start. And I guess it's been sit around this council, not this council, but previous councils, for us to start making a plan and be ready for the pending decision in relation to council, or having a plan, well, not so much the council, the community being prepared and having a plan for when that time comes. I know administratively wise, Deb has her staff looking at plans and preparing, putting stuff together. The other aspect that I was looking at was in relation to the community as a whole, and getting all that input from community members in relation to us being prepared as a community, not just the elected council, but the community as a whole to be ready for that pending decision in court. So I know I've sent an email here to council to request for this ad hoc committee to be set up. And I know, Chief, you had a question in regards to the people. I know some of the people that I've looked at, I've talked to them to see if they're interested in the names that I've presented, have agreed to it, but I don't know if it's still subject to council's approval, I guess, how you want to handle that process. I mean, I didn't want to have a huge committee because it is going to be a lot of work. It's going to be time consuming. It's going to be, I just know it's going to be a lot of work. And I can sense it now. So some of the individuals that I have asked is Barry Hill, Ruby Jacobs, Tim Johnson, and Phil as the community people. And then within council, I had Elena as a young female participant, and Dean Hill as a young male, and Amos Key I've asked is because of his traditional connections and and myself to be sitting on this committee. And I just know it's going to be a lot of work. And once we have, if council approves this, we have our first meeting, then we can have more of a detailed plan on what needs to be required in the process. One of the things that I'm looking at is giving quarterly updates to council in relation to the progress that this committee is making. And I guess ongoing, it is going to be, and I was looking to have this plan for the 59th council to have a concrete plan in place so that by the time we're done our term, there's something in place for next steps pending our court case. So that was the objective of it. I'm here to ask council to see if they would be willing to approve this ad hoc committee so that we can get started on this work. And I know there's some financial implications here, but I guess we'll be taking that to general finance discussions for dollar wise. Thank you.
So I think for some clarification, if this was for the community, I just thought it should have been open for the community to, if they're interested in wanting to be on this committee. That's all. Go ahead, Cynthia.
I would support this by moving a motion. However, my comments are similar to yours. That is, and I heard you said you don't want too many, gets cumbersome, which I recognize. But in my motion, I would like to add that to what you've put there, that it also be open to for written expressions of a desire to be part of it by any of our community members. And it would be nice to have, like you said, youth. I guess Dean's the young guy, him and Elena, but other youth. I mean, it doesn't have to be youth or elders, but if it's just open, so we could have a total of up a maximum of, I don't know what gets to be too big. Maybe if there's all this work, it helps though, because some people might not be able to get to all your meetings. Maybe I don't know even what maximum to put, but what maybe your people feel is reasonable, like a reasonable number, which I'm not sure what that is.
Yeah, I mean, I guess my plan and thought is once we get established, and then there'll be different focus groups. And with Dean being I know he's on the youth rep, so he could reach out to the youth so that everybody's not running to the youth, and then Dean can start doing the research and getting ideas for the youth, and Amos with the traditional people, because we have to involve everybody on this community, on this for Six Nations, because we are one community, and that's what we got to look at, this plan for Six Nations, and that's all I'm looking at here. But I mean, yeah, if you want to put an openness for people wanting to sit there, but right now there would be 8 of us, so.
Can you use your mic?
A written letter of interest expressing their desire to be part of it. And again, that would be up to the committee as struck right now to determine, like, this is getting too big and it's unmanageable, whatever.
Go ahead, Greg.
Yeah, I do agree too as well.
Sorry. Cynthia moved it. I just need a seconder. And then I can go to you, Greg. Second by Leslie. Go ahead, Greg.
Yeah, thank you, Chief. Yeah, I do agree with Cynthia and the Chief. Yeah, I think there should be an opportunity to have even in respect with the youth or business people or people that have a more of a legal understanding of this court case. I would suggest that also that as you know, this trial negotiation and appeal and settlement may span over more than 1, 2, or 3 councils. I think that I think it should be open for the existing or the present chief to be available to attend these meetings, or someone from external government relations that's also in tune with what's the day-to-day activities of the court case. So that was just my suggestion. Thanks.
Do you want to comment? And then I have Helen.
Yeah, no, I mean, nothing will get done without this council or any council, whatever stage is at, everything will be at this council. So, like, we're not going to be acting on our own. Everything will come back here for formalization and decision, even on next step. So,
Go ahead, Helen.
Yeah, I think it's a good idea what Dale's doing. I mean, I've been saying here for 2 years that we have to get prepared for the court case, and we haven't really done anything. So at least Dale's taking the initiative and start getting something moving. It's not going to be the wherewithal. They're going to be starting to talk, and I think I would imagine that over the course of their meetings, they're going to come up with different kinds of ideas and how we're going to get started. How are we going to get prepared? And I really think that's probably the basis of what Dale's looking at is how are we going to get prepared for it? And we need to start doing that. We should have been doing that 2 years ago, but so and I agree with the small group. I would probably wouldn't want to see it any larger than 10, and I don't want to see council taken too many councilors taken over, because he does have community members on there. Somebody questioned, what about community members? Well, he's got community members on there. He's got youth. He's got different people with different backgrounds. And I think it's a really good idea to get started. That's all it is getting something started. There's a lot of work to be done in the meantime, and there's a lot of work to be done coming up. And like, I think I agree with Greg when he said that it's probably going to be 3 or 4 councils from now that might be getting right into the gist of things. So I think it's a good idea, and I support what he's doing.
Go ahead, Melba.
Yeah, I think youth, it's been mentioned, should be really part of this. Health and social have said for years they have youth programs, and it's my understanding it's through activities. Now, of course, we have a youth who is Dean. He's very young, so that's really good, but he doesn't think. He hasn't been involved. I mean, they haven't been involved as Dean has been in the community and what happens with our community in various areas. So I think one should be chosen from social, one should be chosen from health, and one should be chosen from Mark and his idea of having youth in place. That's what my understanding is. That's our future. And as somebody said, our community too. That's our future people. They're going to be here for quite a few years, and some aren't. So we need to look at community members as a whole, as well as youth. Thanks.
Go ahead, Amos and Elena.
Just put JR behind my name, please, Amos Key Jr. I'd like to honor my father every time I use that name. Anyway, and then for us at council, I know Deb has done very good work with all her staffs, or we call staffs, with all her divisions that she looks after. But we haven't done an end run here as well as a council. If we got the settlement, what would we do? Like I can count 5 things on probably on my hand. We need a bigger administration building, right? We should be all full time, like I seen Cynthia write about Kahnawake. They all have their own office and probably a staff person for each one of their government officials. We haven't had that kind of conversation here about where would we end up if the settlement came through in the next 10 years. Maybe that's what the next generation will look at as well, and be full time. I say lately, I've been saying lately, the amount of work we do half time, can you imagine what we would be doing if we were full time? With a staff person and our own office. So, I mean, those are the kind of conversations we should have as well, somewhere in the next couple of months. Maybe a summer picnic somewhere. Just kidding.
Go
Anyway,
ahead.
just a thought.
Yeah. Go ahead, Elena.
Thank you. Like Helen, I'm really excited about getting this work underway. I know we all spoke about it as soon as we were elected, and then with shuffling around of portfolios and ironing out that system. It was in talks at the Wealth and Economy Committee before it amalgamated to Lands and Resources, Wealth and Economy. So now that that committee is kind of undertaking multiple areas of work, this kind of I don't want to say necessarily got left by the wayside, but Dale has picked it up. So I'm excited about it. I wonder, Dale, when we might have a terms of reference for approval so that we can get underway. And then taking everybody's suggestions into account. I, when I was approached about this, I do foresee and did at the beginning of the wealth and economy work a lot of focus groups happening and interviews with people. So I know there's a huge community concern about community being left out of the conversation, and I would hope that I can assure them that that's not my intention or understanding. It's actually the opposite, which is what I believe Dale is after, is gathering all of those community ideas and input. And while Deb is doing what the organization as a whole needs for the community, and then we bring all of that together eventually.
Okay, go ahead, Dale.
Yeah, no, just to follow up with Lena, yeah, I mean, I know I got a lot of ideas floating around in my head, and like Greg has touched on about the business people, yeah, I mean, I want to have all these different focus groups for all the different aspects of even these little groups within the community to try and reach out to them. That's why I got certain people that I've looked at that I thought would be able to have that connection to reach out to various community members. Like I know Ruby with the health background and what she did, because she, I mean, she helped create the health department that we had. So she was the first one and created it. And Barry with all his expertise as an engineer, and Tim Johnson, I mean, he's a valuable resource in what he has. I don't know if you've ever seen his bio online, but it's very extensive. And Phil, just because he was the one that helped initiated this court case 50 years ago. So he's got a lot of knowledge. So I'm hoping we don't leave anybody out of this in all these little groups. And that's why I want to go to these groups on a smaller scale, because they would be more open to sharing and talking. Because you get into these big groups and you got one person saying a lot of stuff and another community member might not want to talk. So I'm hoping we can reach as many people as we can, and everything we do is coming back to this council. So
Yep, go ahead, Leslie.
Dale, I'm requesting that I join this team.
and I don't know what Helen said about just being too many councillors, I guess. I mean, that's fine. I mean, that's up to council.
I'm just referencing like in terms of the outreach. I have no problem, and I've always stated that at council.
So before we go to, it's been moved and seconded. In the motion that you're moving, Cynthia and Leslie, are we adding and that it be open to SNGR community for expressions of interest, along with the ones that is already named? Along with the ones that are named. Okay, so before we do that, there was a question online. Who would a letter of expression be sent to? if they're interested, because it sounds like people are being interested or wanting to. So can we just send them to Shirley? Shirley, we can send them to. Go ahead, Deb.
What we can do is organize a communication once the motion's
Can we go to
passed
Dale?
and put it out to the community, and then we can direct them where to send it, so we can get that out soon.
Pardon, Helen?
Comment? Yeah, it sounds like what you're doing is you're taking it away from Dale.
No,
Dale's gonna put it
no, they
together.
want to.
They should be going to Dale.
No, they want to
The
send.
letters of interest should be going to Dale.
They want to send it.
Admin stays right out of this thing. It's got nothing to do with admin. It's got nothing to
Yeah,
do with
no.
nobody.
Well,
Let
I don't
them do
have
their
a
little
problem
thing,
with
what
Shirley
they're
collecting.
doing, see how it goes.
Like, I
Let
don't
them
have a
see how
problem
it
with it going to
goes.
Shirley, and then Shirley and I, we talk all the time anyway, so we'll always communicate, yeah.
It's gonna go to Shirley and then Dale. Go
That
ahead,
sounds
Deb.
good.
So I repeat that we will send something out to the community, and we will direct where people can send it, okay? Because we do have community interest already.
Okay, so it's been moved and seconded. All in favor? Anybody opposed? See none, carried. Waive second reading. Moved by Cynthia. Second by Leslie. All in favor? Anybody opposed? See none, carried. Okay, let's go to. Yep, go ahead.
Just a comment in regards to Leslie wanting to be on, I mean, it's open for any counselor to attend those meetings, so it's gonna be open.
Okay, let's go to 10-1, the Data Governance Committee. That was Tuesday, April 21st. What did I miss?
No, I don't think
Oh,
so.
sorry. Oh, sorry, miss number 9. The recommendation from Unity Building External Government Relations and Justice Committee, moved by Cynthia Jamieson, second by Melba Thomas, that the Unity Building and External Government Relations and Justice Committee recommends Six Nations of the Grand River 59th Elected Council approve Councillor C. Leslie Green to join the Brantford Crime Stoppers. Yep. Go ahead, Melba.
Yes, Dale and I had the opportunity to hear from the chief of police. And of course, you've seen the signs, probably for the last 2 years, that we've been connected to Crime Stoppers for the last few years in matters related to criminals who they work together with to put them under control or in jail or whatever, arrest them for various things. So there is a relationship there that's happening. He also mentioned the fundraising. They do help fundraising. For example, they attend the golf tournaments for Crime Stoppers. So I don't know what you want to do, whether you need to put another person there. I would suggest that we have Crime Stoppers certainly make a presentation here how we can be more benefit to them if they're already related to our police department. So maybe Dale needs to say a few words too. Thanks.
Go ahead, Deb.
No, yeah, in talking to the police, they said the relationship has proven beneficial to the Six Nations Police Service. So they're all in favor of Six Nations continuing to be a part of this. And I know, and they do support as well various whatever way they can to help support fundraising, whether it's on or off. But it does benefit Six Nations and their police services, so it is beneficial.
So we can also get a presentation for the open.
They can come. I know they've been, was it twice now? I think they've been to our community committee twice, just to update, and that's kind of where this is in follow-up to that.
So do you want to bring?
It's up
bring
to
them
council, they want to come to full
They've come to the
council.
committees, but
Yeah.
just to bring them for
And
the community.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll
go
make
ahead,
that
Melba.
motion that Crime Stoppers make a full presentation to the Six Nations
Okay.
elected council and.
So just hang on, Melba. I got one motion on the floor.
Oh, okay.
Let's do that one. Go ahead, Elena.
Yeah, thanks for that explanation, Melba and Dale. My concern with this at the beginning was um, the ask, which was in the third paragraph of the letter, was approaching businesses for sponsorship. So I personally have a problem with the community paying for political um, elected political officials going out and approaching businesses for sponsorships for not our organization. So I would ask that the motion be amended to prohibit our counselors from approaching businesses for sponsorships. Um, that's my view of it.
So with the mover and seconder, are you okay with that? No. So keep it in. Go ahead, Cynthia.
What I heard, and I understand as well from Melba and Dale, this has been part of our community for quite a long time. And yeah, it would be nice if the representative, whoever it is, comes and makes a presentation more for like so the general community is aware. And I would not like to. Leslie's agreed to be on this. I would like to preempt what she might be doing, you know, as far as her contribution, because you'll find when you're involved in these sorts of organizations, there's all manner of activities you become involved with, and I would trust Leslie if something came up that she felt there was somehow a conflict of interest for her, that she would express it to our council. So I don't want to handicap her before she even starts.
Okay. Lane, go ahead, follow up.
Yeah, I was under the impression the last time we spoke about this that we were going to extend this invitation to community members, not just counselors.
Go ahead, Cynthia.
Yeah, this has been dragging around for a bit now, if I recall. I do recall way back we said, oh, well, Melba's already does that. And she said, yeah, she does. And then she corrected us that she had been, but was no longer able to, given certain limitations. She couldn't do it any longer. Then it was with somebody from council, because that's where the invitation came to volunteer. And then it seemed nobody was volunteering, and then Leslie volunteered. Then came up the questions for, I think it was for Bidell and Melba, actually, to find out a little bit more with the police to see. And like it has dragged over about 3 or 4 months, I do believe.
Did you have a follow up, Elena?
Yeah, we often find that quorum is an issue, especially at the committee level. So I wonder if this, when this is asking for 1 to 4 hours a month of time, that this not be prioritized above council business.
Yep. Go ahead, Cynthia.
And I'm glad you bring that up, Elena. It's just because I, myself, being the complainer that I am, have complained often that we need to make our business, being the council business, our priority. Not that we shouldn't and we should be involved in other activities, you know, representative and helpful, supportive to our community, but that's across the board for everything, I do believe, to make it. It's our duty to make our attendance here our first priority. So I entirely agree with you, Elena.
Okay, so it's been moved and seconded, correct? Yep.
Cynthia and Nella.
Yes. All in favor? Anybody opposed?
What are we voting on?
On the motion that's in front of you.
Oh,
You need to join the.
well,
You're still seconding it?
no, I'm not seconding it. I really don't agree with it. As I said, I tried to make a motion.
No, Melba, we're gonna make your motion after. This is just to put Leslie to sit there at Crime Stoppers.
I still disagree. I think we should listen to Crime Stoppers first and then decide, because you have a lot of, quite a bit of information here, such as what Elena is saying. maybe it should be open to community members too. Like, I don't know what is best, because I haven't heard them, and I wanted to correct Cynthia a bit, because I was never on Crime Stoppers. No one informed me of a date of a meeting, and I overheard someone say something about a breakfast. I knew nothing about that, so I was never on there at all. So, and that's okay, because I don't want to be on there. Yeah, someone like Leslie maybe would love to be on there. So I disagree with motion coming before we have a presentation if we do follow through with a resolution. Thanks.
Go ahead, Dale.
I'll second the motion.
Okay, so it's been moved and seconded now by Dale. All in favor? Anybody opposed? Melba, do you oppose? Is it for the reason that you just gave? And also Elena opposes? How come you oppose, Elena?
I don't think we should be out doing fundraising for people. I think we should be out being political and lobbying.
Okay. Carried. Waive second reading. Moved by Cynthia, second by Dale. All in favor? Anybody opposed? Two opposed. Okay, let's go to 10. Oh, Melba's. Let's go to your that you wanted to the Crime Stoppers to come here and do a presentation. Can you use your mic?
Full presentation to council so they can have the opportunity to get some of these questions answered, and then perhaps you'll rethink of the resolution that was just made. Perhaps. Thanks.
Okay, so a presentation to come here. So it's been moved by Melba, second by Amos.
With a comment?
Go ahead.
Full disclosure, we give Crime Stop reports on CKRZ radio, and it's always about people in the surrounding communities. So maybe we need to start hearing about some of the crime that's happening right in our own home backyard, because it's a way of policing ourselves. Because you don't want your name on the radio if you ran into a ditch when you're drunk driving. So I mean, that's the kind of thing that it can do for a community, Crime Stoppers. You know, so I mean, that's what I would ask if they come here. There's nothing local on our own Crime Stoppers report.
So it's been moved and seconded. Go ahead, Dale. Question.
Yeah, just a comment in regards to, I know it maybe not be a Crime Stoppers report, but I know that the police, they will be, I think their annual report is coming out, and within that report, they do have a lot of stats in regards to stuff on reserve. Yeah.
Okay, all in favor? Anybody opposed? See none carried. Waive second reading. Moved by Melba, second by Dale. All in favor? Anybody opposed? See none carried. Let's go to updates from committee meetings. Let's go to 10-1, the Data Governance Committee from Tuesday, April 21st. Go ahead, Dean.
Thank you, Chief. So I know that we discussed earlier that one of the items here is going to come back to a further council meeting, but I can just give a quick high-level overview of some of the items that we have been working on in the committee. One of them is some of the data that we're collecting and creating these cases for council and eventually the community as well. For example, around the Grand River Emergency Alert Tool. It's going to be monitoring the water levels over the Chiefswood Bridge. The other one is going to be, for example, our fire incidents and operations, right? We're starting to collect all this data and actually put it into visible, I guess, presentations, you can say. Something that's easily accessible for our advocacy moving forward. So a lot more information is going to come, but right now, that's all I can share on it. Thanks, Chief.
Okay, can I have a mover to accept his update? Moved by Melba, second by Cynthia. All in favor? Anybody opposed? See none carried. Let's go to 10-1? 2? I got, someone wrote on my thing 10-2. Moved by Amos Key and second by Greg Fraser that the Data Governance Committee recommends that to the Six Nations of the Grand River 59th Elected Council that Rachel Van Avery, Acting Director of Data Analytics and Insights, attend the Chiefs of Ontario Data Sovereignty Conference May 12th to May 14th in Toronto. Go ahead, Dale.
Yeah, no, my question is like, why are we doing this? This is administrative. It's something Deb can do. She's the administration in relation to staff. This is not a political thing, so this shouldn't even be on our table.
Go ahead, Deb.
And Rachel did bring this to me, Dale, and I've approved for her to attend this already.
Yep, done. So let's go to 2, Education, Language, and Culture Committee. Wednesday, the meeting date was Wednesday, April 22nd. Amos?
Colleague, Chair Audrey Pauls Bombre, I did not prepare. I thought she might be back. I know she's on bereavement and condolences to her and her family. So I wasn't prepared to give the report. Thank you.
Thank you.
The next one will be.
Yeah. So let's go to number 3, the Well-Being Committee, meeting date,
Okay.
April 24th. Go ahead, Amos.
Yeah, we had a really good meeting, but you're going to always hear that from me. Our full staff was there, and my full committee was there, including Greg Fraser, our guest. He keeps telling me he's our guest to our committee, but I don't believe it. I don't want him to be. Anyway, and I'm the chair. So to the community, that's who's on our committee is Melba Thomas, Hazel Johnson, Greg Fraser, and myself. And then we have some very talented staff people. You have to know that community. And then also Audrey Paulus Bombre is a member of our committee. At the last meeting, we had Rachel Venivri introduce herself to the committee. She's now taking over the analytics, the governance, and she's very supportive of us. And I mean, we had a good relationship. I got to meet her at her own governance meeting, so analytics meeting. She's taking over for Zach Miller, so we're really happy with that. And we have Abigail and Brian as well, Herchek, the director. We had a presentation by Michelle Bombury and all of the efforts they're trying to do at the Brantford General Hospital in Willett for the Brantford Health Services. They talked about, she shared with us their 3-year plan, but there was a codicil about that because they were also lacking funding. So like she mentioned to all of us, like all hospitals are in a deficit situation in Ontario right now. That also impacts the work that they can do. But I was given the impression that they were down to one navigator again. So that's a concern for getting our people involved and our patient care. So she talked about that as well, and in the 3-year plan. So there was a discussion about inviting her to the full council now that we've heard her at committee, so that we could ask questions about that relationship and that partnership and our stakeholding in that effort to look after our own patient care at the Brantford General Hospital. I think we have a lot of questions that we might be asking. And even in light of the inquests that have been happening with some of the people who lose their lives, not only in that hospital, but I mean all hospitals. There was an update about the March 19th Vision Care and Cultural Gathering that was hosted by the Norfolk and West Haldeman hospitals. Our staff went to that on March 19th. It was a follow-up, this, I think, 2nd or 3rd year now, Deborah? 3rd year of the initiative that Deborah put in place on our behalf to bring in all the stakeholders and partners of all the hospitals that service 6 nations. So this is a continuation of that dialogue along the lines of truth and reconciliation. So it was our support that we would actually take the lead, continue to take the lead on that focus group, that annual one that meets on truth and reconciliation. Deb, you can add things if you need to for my report. And we're also looking at the number and the amount of competency training that we need to kind of develop and lead with our partners and stakeholders. So we kind of had a conversation about that as well. After that, we have standing agenda items on our agenda each month, just for the benefit of the community. The first one is the lodge. We're still moving forward on trying to refurbish or restore the lodge, or rebuild a new lodge. There are some challenges by way of um, location, but I think in our last meeting, we got to talk about that yesterday, and I think there's more movement forward on that now as well. Our next one is Ganeos Medical Clinic. For the community, we are still working on restoring the medical clinic, Ganeoske, and we get reports each month about how far we are along that line. The challenge is, of course, Ganeos was built when there was probably 20,000 people here on our band rail, 11,000. So just for the community, 11,000 people, that's how that Ganeos was established based on that population. We are now 15 on reserve, and we're outlived that service. So we're trying to figure out if we can negotiate with ISC, in Indigenous Services Canada, to add on or expand the site so that we can add more services and to make room for initiatives that's going on. But there seems to be some reluctance on the ISC side, so it's going to take some negotiation advocacy on our side to support well-being on that. The hospice, we had Lois Bombury come in and present to us about where we are with the hospice. There's kinds of concerns about we don't have a secondary road into that property, and it's already the construction period starting, and we're getting delivery of timbers or some of the materials. So that was a concern, and we're going to try and address that as soon as possible to get that secondary road or lane into that property. So that's on our agenda to move forward with that. We did have a verbal report about how well they did with the gala. I'm not at liberty to tell you how impressive that was, but they did do very well, and we have to thank Lois and her team for putting on that gala. But that's all I can say for now. There'll be a full report from the hospice gala team to council. All I can say, it was very successful. I shouldn't even say that. It was successful. The planning task force for the new hospital in Brantford and Brant County, Six Nations, and Mississaugas, we're still moving forward with that. I can't say too much except that I'm sworn to an NDA, but we are meeting on the 8th with our recommendations to the trustees of our final recommendation of what site we would support them looking at and possessing or purchasing. So that meeting is on the 8th, and that's all I can tell you because I'll get my hands slapped for disclosing any more than that we have 8. So that's going to happen next week. I have to do 8 reports of my observation on those properties, so we'll be doing that. We are moving forward with our Food Sustainability and Food Security Summit. That's going to happen on May 8th. The same day I'm at this all-day meeting with the Brantford General Hospital. It's unfortunate, but the team's going to carry forward with that, bring in the stakeholders and partners who are delivering services for food and nutrition in our community, from the food bank, farmers, Gayanase. All of those groups are going to come together and see if we can create a momentum to work with each other to create this food security and food sustainability. So hopefully that'll be successful on May 8th, and that there'll be some kind of recommendation going forward that we would create a new group that would help our community in the era. Communication strategy, we had a discussion about our own communication strategy. We're meeting on May 1st, this Friday. We're going to revisit as a team, as a committee, our mandate in terms of reference to see whether we can confirm and reaffirm them. We've been at it now for 2.5 years almost. And then we want to look at some ideas that we can go forward and present to communications here about going forward and delivering our communications to the community of the the big agenda that this well-being staff have. So we want to be able to communicate and engage the community. So we need to find ideas and working with comms, trying to figure out how we can communicate, whether it's monthly reports or those kinds of things, something on the websites, on the radio and the newspapers. We want to talk about that as well. And so that's going to happen. And I guess also we want to begin to talk about, and I know Deb's been working with her staff, with well-being and Brian and the staff there about where they want to be in 5, 10, 15, 20 years with health delivery here at Six Nations. So we want to be a part of that conversation as well and begin that and hear back from our staff at well-being. And our last item was we have a standing agenda called political advocacy. As we revisit who we are as a mandate in terms of reference, we want to be able to now, and I know I shared this with the chief and in Greg, that we want to move forward now in getting some political advocacy at the federal and provincial level with our staff. So we need to have a meeting with Jane Philpott, the Dr. Jane Philpott, who is the lead on primary care in Ontario. And all their documentation says it's inclusive, so it includes First Nations. So we want to be able to go and meet with them now. And Ms. Jones, the minister, and also Deborah Richardson, who is the Deputy Minister of Health. It'd be nice to get them all in the room, but if we can't get them all in the room, we go one at a time to meet with them. And also, I think we should also go to the federal level. I think the name of the lady is the minister, Honorable Minister Marjorie Michelle. We should go and meet with her whenever we're in Ottawa or invite her down when we get our plan together and ideas. And because we're always advocating that we need more doctors, primary care here in Ontario and at Six Nations. We probably need 10 more for our population of 15,000. And we can say that at a higher level, and our staff can work on what that's going to look like. I was reminded of that in our meeting, so that was great dialogue we had about that. But at a higher level, as a government, we can say this is what we need for our community and get the staff to, crunch the numbers and things like that to make sure that we have at least 15 primary care doctors for all of our population in Six Nations. And that's usually 1 to 1,000 is what they're using right now. 1 to 1,000 patients. So anyway, we want to advocate for that, Chief, and our committee with you and your office. And I penned a draft letter that I want to send to you now, and we can chop it up and chew it up, and maybe we just ask for the meeting first, a letter, a simple letter. But that's where we're at, and I just want to thank my committee and my team. I know I gush too much about them, but they are talented people, so I don't apologize for that. We have a good, I think we got a good forward-thinking group on behalf of this council, this 59th council. So that's my report, Chief, and if any community members want to speak to me, I know some do, they call me. So as far away as Fort Erie. So I want to thank those folks for keeping us guided in what we're talking about and the well-being and health of our community. Yama.
Can I have a mover to accept this information? Moved by Cynthia, second by Leslie. All in favor? Anybody opposed? See none, carried. Let's go to number 11. The next meeting is May 12th. The deadline for agenda items is noon on Tuesday, May 5th. I have one. Go ahead, Amos. You have one?
Just for the council, I was at the April 21st annual meeting of Governio, and they published a nice report that I can circulate to you guys. I just wanted to share with you also that Governio is right now under budget in its construction, which is a good thing, and they're also under the schedule. So they're right on time. So they're hopefully we can open the doors in May next year with Lenka and all those groups helping Kevin and Arnold Bomber, who's taking the lead on behalf of Governio. So the big thing for the community is that it's under budget right now, and there's not too many change orders, and they're under schedule, so they're going to be able to open in 27. If it's done in May, we'll have a big celebration, and then the students can get ready to move in with the teachers on September 27. So anyway, this is their annual report, and I just want to share that with the council tonight.
That's great news. Okay, number 12. Oh, motion to adjourn. Moved by Cynthia, second by Leslie. All in favor? Anybody opposed? See none, carried. Thank you for joining us tonight, and have a great night, everyone.